Do you feel like the things that God is calling you to right now feel repetitive and redundant? And you feel like He has you in a season of waiting and preparation? If so, please feel free to stick around for the rest of this video, because today we're talking about the season of waiting. Okay, if we haven't met before, my name is Devan Caswell. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Motivational Ministries, where we inspire you to pursue the dream that God has instilled in your heart. If this video brings value to your life, feel free to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also feel free to comment below any prayer requests you guys have. Thank you so much for being patient. Let's dive into this video. Now, before I dive into anything too specific, I just wanted to explain that waiting on God is one of the most difficult things for a believer to really begin to understand. Because especially in American culture, we have this thing called instant gratification. It's something that we all struggle with. You know, we want things and we want them now. We want them immediately. But God doesn't always work like that. See, God might be calling you to something. He might be calling you to be a pastor, or, you know, you feel like He's leading you to pursue a certain relationship. But that doesn't mean it's exactly time to do that yet. See, God has a timing for everything, and I really hope by the end of this that you really begin to understand that. The first major point I want you guys to walk away with is be diligent in the waiting season. Okay, I want to share a story with you guys. There was a young man and his pastor, and the pastor gave this young man a bamboo plant and told him to water this bamboo plant every day, to not miss a day. Make sure he waters that. And so this young man plants his bamboo plant and immediately begins watering it day after day. And you know, a few months pass by and he approaches the pastor and he's like, "Man, I've been watering this thing for a few months now. I'm not seeing any results." And the pastor tells him to keep watering it. So a year passes, he goes back to the pastor and he says, "Man, I keep watering this thing, I still don't see anything." And the pastor says, "Keep watering it." And so he waters it, and then 2 more years go by and still no results. And he goes back to the pastor in frustration. He says, "Pastor, I'm not seeing anything." And he says, "Son, you have to keep watering this plant." And so he kept watering it, and a couple more years goes by, and just then he begins to see this beautiful bamboo plant overnight sprout up about 8 feet tall. See, overnight this bamboo plant went from 0 to 8 feet. See, here's the thing. God might be calling you to something, and He keeps calling you to water that plant. He keeps calling you to prepare for what's to come. And you might not understand why you have to wait. You might not understand why you have to keep, watering this plant when you feel like you're not seeing any results. It feels repetitive. It feels redundant. You feel like you're not bearing the fruits that you should be. But I'm here to tell you, God has you in the season of waiting so that He can prepare you for what's to come. Because here's the thing. People say that life doesn't change overnight. I'm here to tell you, with the right opportunity, it can. And God is prepping you for that opportunity. So when that opportunity comes along, your life will change for the better drastically overnight. But it requires your preparation and your diligence during that waiting season in order for that to happen. And we see this in Scripture with the prodigal son. Now, when most people teach on the prodigal son, they talk about the prodigal son in the aspect of like God's grace and God's love, and there's nothing that can separate us from that. And despite our mistakes, God's going to forgive us. And that's all good and great stuff, but I'm coming from a different angle today. See, the prodigal son was a young man that felt like he wanted to change the world. He felt like he was ready to change the world. So because of it, he goes up to his father and asks for his inheritance. Now here's the thing. He wasn't supposed to receive that inheritance until his father passed. But because his father loved him, he gave him his portion of the inheritance. And so the son takes his portion of the inheritance and he goes out into the world and he spends it in a foolish way and really just regrets his decision and ultimately realizes that and comes back to his father's house. Now here's the thing. That son wasn't supposed to receive that inheritance until later in life. And if he hadn't received it until that later portion of life, well, he probably would have been more mature by then. He probably would have been more prepared by then. He probably would have had a good idea with what he wanted to do with that inheritance. But because he was impulsive and felt like he was, ready to take on the world, he wanted that money now. And he succumbed to instant gratification, and he suffered for it because he wasn't ready for that step. But because his father loved him, He gave him that money anyway. So I'm here to tell you, God might be calling you to something in a certain time. But if you have a desire, He's going to give you that desire. Because He loves you. He doesn't want to force you to not do something. He wants to grant the desires of your heart. But you have to understand, don't succumb to instant gratification. Okay, understand that God has a certain timing and a certain season for certain things in your life. He might be calling you to be a pastor, but that doesn't mean you're ready to be a pastor yet. He might need to prepare you. He might need to prepare your heart a little more. He might need to bring more maturity inside of you. He's working things inside of you that you're not even aware of. And it's important that during this season of preparation that you're diligent and you're seeking Him at every single moment, which leads to my next point. The second major point that I want you guys to walk away with today is that God is lining things up in the background. There's multiple reasons that God has us wait, like I was previously talking about. He might want to install more maturity. He might want to, prepare you a little more. But the other main reason is that He's lining things up in the background that you're not even aware about. Back to the story of the prodigal son. The son took his inheritance and spent his money on foolish things. But when he returned to his father, what his father immediately did is when he saw him walking up to the house, the father ran up to the prodigal son, embraced him, and said, "Get this son my finest robe that I have and kill the fattened calf because we're celebrating his return." See, I'm here to tell you, God wants to give you the best of what He has. Okay, and in order for Him to do that, it requires patience, because God is lining up connections that you're not even aware about. See, He might be prepping other people in the same season that He's prepping you. That way, when you guys finally meet, you guys are both prepared for the things that God is calling us to. He might be preparing a certain business partner or a certain ministry partner, or He could be preparing your wife. He could be working on your wife's heart, and you're trying to be diligent in this same season of working on your heart and working on yourself, whether it's for business or a certain relationship, whatever the aspect might be. I need you to understand that God is lining up connections in the background, and He's preparing them, and not only preparing you. So it's important that as we seek God, that as we continue to build our relationship, and as we continue to have faith in this waiting season, that we understand that there's reward for our patience. Galatians chapter 6 verse 9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." See, the important part of all of this, of that verse, is that last part that says, "Do not give up." See, yes, it's important that we reap a harvest from our diligence of waiting, but I want you guys to remember to not give up, because during this waiting season, it's going to feel like eternity. It's going to feel like forever. It feels like the same task that you've been doing. Maybe you're working a full-time job and you don't really, enjoy your job. Well, I'm here to tell you, find the beauty in that job, because you're going to be working it for a while. See, God has you in a season of waiting for a reason. He's prepping you. He's doing all these things for your benefit. So make sure that you're doing everything you can to reap what this season has for you, to take in and soak in everything that this season has for you, because it's all going to be good and it's all going to be worth it in the end, but you can't give up. It's extremely important that you keep seeking God and dare to have faith in this waiting season. See, a farmer, if he doesn't prepare his fields in the dry season, he's not going to bear fruit in the fruitful season. And I'm here to tell you, how diligent you are in the dry season is going to determine how much fruit you bear during the fruitful season. So make sure that you're diligent in this season, that you're seeking God with everything you have, that you don't give up, that you continue growing, that you continue maturing, that you continue to have faith in Him, because it's all going to be worth it in the end. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any comments, any suggestions, any questions, or any prayer requests, go ahead and comment them below. Hey, I have so much love for you guys. Make sure you check out the other related videos, the links that I've attached in my description. I don't want you guys to miss any of that. I also have t-shirts that you guys can check out, merchandise, and all that good stuff. So don't miss out on that. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week.